We are live for 30 Food Safety, where we interview the brightest minds in food safety for 30 minutes. Today, we are with Damarys Del Castillo. How are you doing, Damarys?
I'm doing great, Patty. Grateful to be
Good,
here.
good. Well, we're glad to have you. Always love to kick these off, just maybe hear a little bit from you on your background and kind of up to date how you got to where you are.
Perfect. Well, I'm truly delighted to be here and honored to be the first guest in 2026 to join you here, Patty. As you said, my name is Damarys Del Castillo, and I'm from the beautiful island of Puerto Rico. And for the past 6 years, I have been living in Denton, Texas. A little bit of me and my background. Well, I have a bachelor's degree in animal science from the University of Puerto Rico, College of Agriculture. And my dream was always to become a veterinarian, but financial limitations at that moment led me to pursue animal science and become an agronomist instead.
Oh, wow.
My first formal job was in 1994. Don't do the calculations, please. So at a small slaughterhouse and meat processing plant, where I work as a quality control technician, and later I was promoted to be a supervisor in quality control. And after 6 years, an incredible opportunity crossed my path at Goya Foods in Puerto Rico, where I served as Director of Quality Control from 2000 to 2019. And during that time, I decided to pursue my master's degree with the support of my husband and earn a master's in food safety, along with a certification in international food laws, regulations, and at Michigan, from Michigan State University in 2017.
Go Spartans.
And yeah, and and then go Spartans, go green,
Go green.
go green, go white. And then in 2019, I made one of the most challenging decisions in my life, to relocate to Texas.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, it was hard. I accepted a role with Sigma Foods in US as director of manufacturing quality assurance. And to be sincere, that decision was a leap of faith. I
Yeah.
placed everything in God's hands, and He truly opened doors that transformed my life at that moment. And I must tell you, leaving my comfort zone after nearly 19 years with one company was scary.
Yeah. Yeah,
And,
that's a big jump. And you're navigating like cultural differences, you're navigating company
yeah,
differences, different products, all that. That's amazing.
yeah,
Thanks
yeah.
for that background. I guess rewinding a little bit before we dive into what you're doing at Sigma, what jumped out to you in the food space that made it so exciting? You wanted to work with animals and then got into the food safety and quality side. What kept you there?
Yeah, it was interesting, when I was a student, and maybe I can tell you a little bit more about how I get into this space within the food safety.
Yeah.
I think I always said that maybe you make plans to study something, and then along the way you start finding other things that kind of inspire you or catch your attention. And yeah, I'm gonna deep dive on that if you allow me later. But I must tell you that when I moved from Puerto Rico, leaving my comfort zone, as I was saying, after 19 years, moving away from my home, family, friends, and also facing a language barrier. I have not made my disclaimer with you, Patty. It's not a problem for me to speak in English. It's maybe a problem for you to understand my English. I always say that because
No, you're
it's experience.
not at all. Your English is better than my Spanish, that's for sure.
But I embrace this challenge, and in 2021. I was promoted to join the corporate quality team based in Monterrey, Mexico. And this
Oh, wow.
brought new dynamics, cultural differences, as you were mentioning, and more challenges, but also growth.
Yeah.
And today I'm proud to be the division vice president of global food safety for quality, for safety and quality for Sigma Foods, and that role impacts all our operational units across the United States, Mexico, Latam, and Europe. And I
Wow.
can tell you, it has been a journey of faith, resilience, continuous learning, and to be sincere, I'm so excited, for what's ahead, because this doesn't end.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, that's great. And I guess for you, looking back, are there any challenges that jumped out, maybe early on where you were discouraged, or there was just a big challenge that you had to face?
There were challenges. To be sincere, at the very beginning, being young in the industry, I think that you, uh, as a woman, also you have to kind of back in the 90s to face different things that maybe kind of discourage you in some ways. And I think that one of the biggest things is how you navigate maybe those challenges. Uh, and I think that as my career progressed, I discovered that the greatest challenges was not really external. Sometimes it's internal. It's
Hmm.
about how you confront your own fears and insecurities. For example, when I made that, decision, that most of it was based on personal and family decisions at that moment. But I think that when you are confronting yourself, that internal things that sometimes quietly steal confidence and hold you back from stepping up when it mattered the most, right?
Yeah.
It's the hardest thing. It's the hardest battle that you can have with yourself, not with others. Uh, and finding that courage to do what is right, even
Yeah.
when fears whisper in your, whisper to you that you cannot overcoming that fear. It
Yep.
was really defines growth and leadership. That's
Yeah.
for me my take.
Wow, I really like that. That the internal challenges are, like, we don't talk about those as much. Just to get a little more specific, like, what are maybe some of the fears? You said whispering in your ear. Was it, oh, this is going to be too hard? This is going to be like they don't want me to do it. Do I have the experience? What were some of the fears that you had to overcome?
Yeah, actually, that one that you mentioned, especially when you are new in the industry, is that fear that I don't have the experience to do this. But
Yeah.
you have the knowledge, right? And you're learning. And something important is how you blend into those kind of challenges, and also it's challenges and also opportunities. Sometimes you have opportunities in front of you, and you just kind of don't want to jump because you don't have that confidence, and maybe you
Mm.
lost that opportunity that could, take you into a different level. And I think that that is something that sometimes young people, right, or even people that have been working in the same position for many years, they don't have that confidence to just, hey, I can do it. What I need,
Yep.
what are my kind of limitations to learn about this, and 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 do that push to kind of ask for the
Yeah.
opportunity.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And having, even if you don't have the answers, knowing that, like, you have the resources, or you can always learn the things you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Wow,
Of
that's
course.
great. That's a great challenge to overcome. As far as early in the career or more recently, what do you look back and see like your biggest mistake or regret was in food safety?
Oh my God, uh, Patty. Um, I think that all of us at some point we had making small and big mistakes, right? And one that I believe one of my biggest mistake, but maybe a regret. It's
Yeah.
and I think that many of us have that at some point, depending on where we're working, is delegating.
Mm.
But delegating doesn't mean letting go of responsibility, right? So I
Yep.
learned this lesson the hard way without going into many details of what happened. But one time, uh, I wanted to avoid sending the message of being micromanager, to one of my team members. So I delegated this person a task and signed off a document without deeply reviewing it. And
Wow.
unfortunately, that document contained a critical error that
Yeah.
led into a process deviation. So you can
Oh
imagine,
my
right?
God. Yeah.
So yeah, it was horrible. Thankfully, we caught the mistake during production and held the product. But the thing is, it was one of the most expensive formulas.
Wow.
We were able to kind of hold that product before it reached market. So we kind of hold it back and everything was corrected. But I can tell you, those were the most difficult days of my life. I kept
Oh
thinking,
wow.
I don't sleep. I kept thinking about the possibility of contaminated products reaching the consumers,
Yeah.
the monetary loss involved, the time wasted, from production people, employees, and also even the risk of losing my job. Right.
Yeah.
So it was really hard for me, but it was a true learning experience for both.
Wow.
This was for me, for also for my colleague, and
Yeah.
at that moment I understood it's not about trust of criticism, right? It was about a shared responsibility and the importance of validating each other work, because anyone
Yeah.
can make a mistake and as a team, the most important thing is we need to support one another and ensure that the right protocols are always followed.
Yeah.
So um, at the end, this experience taught me about that leadership is not about doing everything yourself or avoiding mistakes, right? It's about owning your role, learning from those challenges, right? And building a culture with your colleagues that we have each other backs. Sometimes we
Yeah.
tend to kind of isolate and doing our own things. And at least for me, that is a learning that I can have been carried from my whole career since it happened. That it's about the team, that we need to work
Yeah.
together.
Do you think just connecting, you talked to earlier about the internal fears and then the story about, a mistake you made early. Do you think because the stakes are so high for food safety, where it's like, obviously people's lives are on the line, but then also like product is very expensive. If you have to, destroy a batch, like it could be hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars. Do you think inherently like food safety kind of does generate some fear just because it is so high stakes?
Well, I think that as a professional in the industry, it's really a fear. But at the same time, for me, I don't measure my decision based on that. I measure
Yeah.
my decision based on the risk, right,
Yeah.
and the impact to the people that are gonna eat or consume the product.
Yeah.
It's difficult, especially at the very beginning, because of the pressure that you may have working in the industry. But at the end, it's about that responsibility that we have.
Yeah,
Safety.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, switching to the other side then. Do you
Uh-huh.
have going from, where you're losing sleep, you're worried about your job, do you have a Hall of Fame moment in food safety? And don't be modest, Damarys. Feel free to, brag a little bit.
Well, uh, to be sincere, I'm this kind of person that I love to work behind the curtains.
Yeah.
But in reality, wow, there's so many moments that may come to my mind. One that stands out right now, it's about the opportunity to lead Women's in Food Safety Latam. Having the trust from the founders of Women's in Food Safety and allow me to kind of create this space to connect women across the Latam community and to connect with peers and talking in our own language and also connecting with peers in US and creating that bridge of communication and support. For me, networking is so important.
Yeah.
It has been incredibly impactful. Recognitions, Patty always feels good, of course.
Yeah.
But the moments, to be sincere, I treasure the most are the quiet ones. When
Hmm.
someone, whether in an email or face to face, whether I know them well or no, says, what you did helped me grow. What you said made a positive impact on my career or life. Um, those messages are priceless. They
Yeah.
remind me that what I do matters. They fill me with energy. They reaffirm my purpose. And that kind of impact is the recognition, to be sincere, that means the most to me.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, those are the people you help, the thank you notes that you get. Those are the things that really
Yeah,
stick with you in the long term.
yeah,
That's really
yeah.
great. And I guess as far as thinking back as like over your career, do you have any takes in food safety that maybe are a little contrarian? I always like to say, what's your hottest take in food safety right now? Yeah, anything that's like an unpopular view.
Well, you know, every season brings its own challenges in food safety, and that's what I love what I do because it's always changing, right? It's always
Yeah,
something new happening. We keep seeing that with regulatory changes and unfortunate, recall events that are still happening. But my take is that not just about compliance or following rules.
yep,
It's about people. We are working in an industry that in reality we're working with people that are making food. And I know that this may sound repetitive. Many people have been talking about this, but the real question still is, how do we, in organizations of all sizes and across countless departments and divisions, some with cultural challenges, deliver a simple message that truly resonates, one that inspires commitment? And also, how do we pass knowledge to the new generation that is coming in the industry, new employees that are from a new generation that learns differently? And
yeah,
and 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 as leaders, I always think that we have a special superpower, right, to influence behaviors in diverse ways, and that influence can last if we are intentional, if we're really passing that with an intentional in an intentional way to them.
yeah,
So in the industry, many colleagues have mentioned this repeatedly, that the goal at the end is that employees, who are people, we have employees,
yep,
but those employees are people, choose to do the right thing every time when no one is watching.
yeah,
That's for me the ultimate goal, right? And the key is that evolving culture doesn't mean sacrificing operational efficiency or profitability, right? It's not kind of, I need to do this and this is going to be affected. No, I
Yep.
think that they can live together. In fact, and you see that in other, many companies, that the strongest food safety cultures create smarter processes that impact, for example, waste reduction, minimize deviations, and protect brand trust.
Yeah.
So, for me, true commitment, Paddy, happens when food safety becomes a shared mindset across an organization. And it has
Mm.
to be embedded into everyday actions, not just a piece of paper and a checklist, right?
Yeah.
It's about really empowering people,
Yeah.
fostering accountability, turning knowledge into habits, that
Yeah.
those habits protect lives. Eh, so for me, when food safety and production work hand in hand, everyone wins.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, kind of makes me have two questions. So, you're saying food safety is about compliant, or is about people, not compliance. Do you have any stories where you helped shift an organization or shift a process from, hey, we're just doing this to check the box, versus, no, this is like a more people-oriented approach? Do you have any specific stories that jump to mind?
Yeah, in my previous life, right, in the industry, working, and it's interesting when you work with companies that have different structure, but it comes back, right, to people that sometimes they are doing things certain way over and over again. And I think that this is a challenge, not just for me when I have to handle it, but also for other colleagues when you have legacy employees that have been there maybe 30 years, 40 years, and then you're asking, okay, we're going to change the process or the way you're doing things. And that person immediately is going to be kind of a, nope, I'm not going to do this. I have been doing this way forever, and we don't have any issues. And trying to sell, right? I don't like to impose things. I always like to explain whys to the employees. That's very effective. Sometimes there are
Mm-hmm.
employees working. I have the experience for people working in the formulation, for example, area, and without entering into too technical language to deep. They were formulating, but they were not really understanding what is an acid product and then a low acid product. And that is a
Yeah.
huge kind of big thing for them to understand, because you have someone there formulating, you are given specifications, parameters that they need to follow, where you're really validating that they're understanding their high risk if they make a mistake or they are not doing the right, collecting the data correctly, or maybe saying, this is just one number, I'm gonna kind of put something else there. It's a huge difference. With low acid product, when you have a deviation, you have a process deviation, maybe that affect the stability of that product in the shelf, right?
Yeah.
And you can have a potentially a poison inside a package
Yeah.
versus maybe an acid product that maybe you have a quality deviation, but it's not like a per se, you know, microbiological thing.
Yeah.
So those are experience, right, that teach me that you can take anything for granted, or you can say no, that employees there, they understand everything. No, checking with employees periodically, getting involved when we are in this kind of a responsible positions, and kind of ask, hey, how you doing, and maybe create that conversation, but also at the same time asking those kind of key questions that lead you to understand how they are understanding or taking the way that they're working, because we can
Yes.
take anything for granted here.
Yeah. So moving away from just checking a box and moving towards actually asking why, making sure teams understand why they're doing what they're doing and why it's important.
Yeah, of course.
That's great. And then another question that popped up thinking about just compliance and food safety and people is, for you in the food safety world now or in your role now, what keeps you up at night?
My God, I think that in food safety, for me, is one single truth or nightmare that stands out, right? That even with the most advanced systems, a single lapse, mistake, omission can create consequences that ripple far and wide. And this is something that stay with me always.
Yeah.
Every single decision counts because lives depends on it.
Yeah. Wow. That'll keep you up every night if you think too much about it.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Got it. Okay. And so sounds like there's like always a risk to be thinking about. One of the best things of food safety is, of course, the community, the high impact, and then the mentorship and relationships. Where for you throughout your career did you go to learn? Was it mentors, resources, or how did you learn throughout your career?
I have been always been curious since I was in university and also later on in the industry. I
Yeah.
love reading articles. I come, Paddy, from a generation where internet was not a thing. You have to subscribe to magazines, read the Code of Federal Regulations, look onto directives, guidelines, or dive into scientific journals to learn.
Yeah.
But honestly, most of my learning came from mentors. And
Yeah.
I can say that mentors shape my journey in many, many ways. Some of them share technical knowledge, others share their experiences, right?
Yeah.
Some motivated me by showing working styles that I admire, or even those that I learned not to follow because we learn from everyone, right? That there are some that I'm not gonna do that. Also, some mentors challenged me by telling me not what I wanted to hear, but I wanted
Hmm.
what I want, but what I need to hear, right? At certain moments in my life.
Yeah.
So back in the 90s, studying agriculture did not include like a book that said, okay, you are going to be kind of prepared on management or supervisory skills.
Yeah.
You learn those the hard way through mistakes.
Yep.
And I remember that sometimes you think, oh, I'm going to stay silent to avoid maybe hurting someone or to say something that could cause a situation, right? But in reality, you realize later that not speaking up created a bigger problem.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, so some things that I just remember, but at the end, what I carry with me, it's simple. When someone thinking right about my life and reflecting that someone once stepped in without hesitation to teach me and share what they knew. Uh,
Yeah.
so that's why
Wow.
I choose to give back, right? To share what I know, to support those who need guidance with what with the knowledge that I have, and to offer honest advice with kindness, because knowledge grows when we pass it on.
Yeah. So how, I guess everyone says mentorship's important. How have you found your mentors, or how have people found you as a mentor? I know you've done women in food safety in LATAM. I know you've done a lot of educational content in Puerto Rico for the Caribbean. How can people find mentors in the space?
Oh, wow. I always said that in this space, I think that you started when you realize, okay, I want to go and study um, food science or food safety or anything related with agriculture, right? And then at that moment, you need to start doing that kind of networking.
Hmm.
It's so important. I can't emphasize enough on that networking, that to be brave, to just see and identify people, right? That's how I started. I just see people that I say, oh my God, I wanted to be like him or her when I grow up, and
Yeah.
know and have that knowledge and that kind of a way of speaking and communicate with others. So I always encourage students to start doing that at the very moment that they start studying in university, and then later on within the industry, how you see other companies and connect. There's right now there's a lot of ways to do that: linkedin groups, organizations, associations, even small groups in the internet that connects to talk
Yeah.
and share experiences. I think that is very helpful, because I always tell my friends that it's not the same way. Well, friends, colleagues, right? That you may have a family members or friends, but if that family members or friends are not from the industry, they're not gonna understand quite well where you're living every day in your jobs
Yeah.
and in the challenges that you face. If you have a friend within the industry, you just need to say what word or put a face, and they are really, yeah, I know, I understand you, and then that is helpful, because you don't feel alone. You don't feel
Yeah.
alone. You feel that you have other people that feel the same way, and then you start kind of feeling more energized to really talk and maybe learn and apply practices that help you in your own with your own responsibilities.
Yeah.
So I think that is so important to kind of have the networking. I'm not gonna specify this or this other, but there's a lot right now. It's just
Yeah.
need to look out.
It sounds like the general thing is like you just got to put yourself out there. People are
Exactly.
willing to help. Food safety is,
Of
it's
course.
it's not competitive.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
And something you talked about earlier is that there's in this mentorship, it needs to happen. Like the generation needs to pass down knowledge to the new generation. You said that's a big issue. How do you see that improving? Like, because someone retires, they've been in the industry 40 years, we just lose their knowledge. How do you think we should be transferring down to the next generation?
I think that is something that I think that is happening. There's groups right now that you have people. There's amazing leaders. You already have some before in this space that they're so open to share that knowledge. And I
Yeah.
think within the industry, and I was in a meeting that Jorge Hernandez actually was talking about it. Mentorship. How important is that? How important is to have groups within your organization, and those legacy employees, how they can start kind of taking maybe groups of people that are interested to start passing that knowledge to them, because
Mhm.
it's so important. And I think that companies have to have that mentorship programs defined with
Yeah.
the human resources department or other department that is in charge of kind of making sure that we don't lose that knowledge and pass it on to future generations.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I guess
Mhm.
for you, Damaris, if you could give one piece of advice to the next generation of food safety leaders, what would it be?
I will say, Fadi, success is not about perfection.
Mm,
For me, it's about staying authentic. Make
mm,
sure that you learn continuously, that having that courage to grow beyond your limits, and surround yourself with positivity. Protect your balance, be brave, leading always with integrity every step of the way. That is so important.
Wow. I feel like I could listen to that every morning, get inspired, get motivated. That's great.
Of course.
Awesome. Well, Damarys, we're wrapping up here. If you could see one person get interviewed on 30 Food Safety, who would you like to see and why?
Oh, well, Patty, seriously, why you put me on this spot like this? Um, eh, there's so many amazing people
Yeah.
who will be perfect for this, right? And to talk with you and share their life. Well, if I must choose right now, I must go with Tracy Mickelson. Tracy, if you seeing this, please don't hate me. But Patty, Tracy is an absolute rock star when it comes to food
Yeah.
safety, and she's passionate, knowledgeable, and someone who has made a real impact on so many lives. So honestly, I think she would be a great and incredible guest for Teddy Food Safety.
Amazing. Well, we'll track down Tracy. Well, thank you so much, Damarys. This has been such an awesome conversation just about battling internal fears, mentorship, growth. We really have loved having you on today.
Adi, thanks for thanks again for having me for this opportunity. I really enjoy our chat, and I really hope that sharing a bit of my story inspires others, and especially those just getting started in the food industry.
Amazing.